Okay, it's time to do creme brulee. And creme brulee is one of those things, as I mentioned, people get nervous about. They believe it's very difficult and it takes a long time, etc. It's actually one of the simplest desserts I make, and it'll end up being one of the simplest desserts you make. It has 4 ingredients. One is egg yolks, the second is sugar, a little vanilla, and heavy cream. And that is all you need. And in fact, we're going to put them in that order. We start with the egg yolks, and I've got 8 egg yolks here, and I'm going to put them in my mixer. Now, you could do this with a whisk at home, but it will take a little bit more time because the whole goal of this piece is to incorporate and dissolve the sugar. And I just spilled my vanilla, so I need to fix that, get a different one. We will put this sugar right in, and we want to dissolve that sugar. And we'll turn it on. Slowly incorporate that, and what will happen, you'll know it's been dissolved when the egg yolks turn from that orangey yellow color to a very pale yellow. So it's starting to incorporate. I'm going to put up the speed a little bit. I don't know if you can tell from the camera, but I'll show you when it's all done how that will turn into a very pale yellow, and we'll get much more of a thick consistency. And that's working out nicely now. Doesn't take too long, maybe just a few moments. I don't know if you can see that, it's starting to turn. Now, like I said, you could use a whisk at home, but as you can tell, it's always easier when you have a mixer. If you don't have a mixer, just incorporate it as quickly as your little wrist can go, and you'll see that it will, in fact, turn that yellowy color. And here we go. We are just about there. I'm going to give it one little last blast, and then I'll actually take the bowl and show you a little more closely. Beautiful. Okay, so let me just show you a little bit of a close-up on that guy. I'm going to bring this down and kind of show you inside here. And you can see how that is turned from just a typical egg yolk color into a much paler yellow. In fact, I could even go a little while longer on this if I wanted to, but it looks pretty good here. It does get thicker and, like I said, a little more pale yellow. So we'll put that right back onto the KitchenAid, which is really interesting and difficult to do when you're doing it backwards, but what the heck. There we go. I think I got it. We'll lift that back up. I'm going to turn that on again, and to this, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla right into it. And I'm going to turn it down just a tiny bit because I'm going to add 2 cups of heavy cream. So I'll pour that in slowly and let that all mix up nicely. Now, as I said, many people get nervous for making creme brulee because it's a custard, truly. And when you tell somebody you're going to make a custard or that they need to make a custard, because they are so sensitive to heat, etc., and they break, and when I say break, I mean like you'll have scrambled eggs instead of a custard. That is a very real issue that happens when you're making a traditional custard. This particular recipe takes that out of the equation. And what we do is we mix the ingredients here for the custard right in our bowl. And this looks fine to me, so we're going to shut that off and take it down. We'll remove this here. Let me just move this over to the side. There we go. And let's show this here right now. So it's really just a nice, beautiful colored mix, a custard mix. Again, remember, all we have in here are the four ingredients, right? The eggs, the sugar, the vanilla, and the cream. And that's all we needed. We're going to take this mixture now, And as I said, we took the difficult part out of making custard away. And what I mean by that is that normally now we would put this on a stovetop if you wanted to make a traditional custard, and you'd get it in a pan and you would cook this very, 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 very slowly. Instead, we are going to pour it right into our ramekins. Now for this process, or for this recipe I should say, I use these little square ramekins. You can use whatever you want. Anything that will go into your oven. You've seen those little round ramekins. You could make one large one, by the way. You don't have to make individual ones. You could, if you have a nice, even a ceramic tart pan, you could use that for this. It really is whatever you would like. So I'm going to use the individual ones. And what I'm going to do is, remember, we have about probably 2.5 cups of stuff here. So we are going to pour that into about 6 or 7 ramekins. And in this case, I'm going to do 6 just to show you how it's done, and because that's how many fit in my little pan here. And the pan is important because that's why we are taking the scariness of the breaking of the custard out of it. So we have all of our ramekins full with our custard mix. And now what we're going to do is we have them in a pan that is higher than they are, and we're going to add some water to that. And when we add the water, we're just going to add it till it gets up to about 3/4 of the height of the sides. Now the reason why you want to cook in a water bath is because if you think back to your probably middle or elementary school days, when you're thinking about the boiling point of water as 212 degrees, that means that this water, it's impossible for it to get any hotter than 212 degrees, because after that point it becomes steam. So what this cooking method allows is for the custard to cook at a very low temperature, surrounded by a very low temperature water, and allows it to cook very slowly and will resolve the issues of the scrambled egg issue, if you will, or the breaking issue. So when something is told, you're told to cook something in a water bath, that's wise. Oftentimes there's cheesecake recipes that do the same, but for custards and this creme brulee, we have the water bath. We're about to go take it now, put it into a 300-degree oven. It's going to take about 35 to 45 minutes, depending on the size ramekins you have, and your ovens all vary, of course. So keep an eye on it. And when it just becomes a little golden on top, maybe just a tiny bit soft in the center, you're going to remove it from the oven and let it rest, let them cool, and then I'm going to come back here and I'll show you how we actually finish this off and how it got its name, creme brulee. So I'm going to take this back into the oven. I'm going to go slowly because I have the water bath right in here and I don't want it falling. Or I should say I don't want it falling into the ramekins. And here we go. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, so the very last step in the creme brulee, as you know, or you may not know, creme brulee actually is a French term, which means burnt cream. And what it actually is a custard, which we've made, and they came out beautiful, by the way. And on top of that is a hard caramel topping. And that is made by bruleeing sugar, burning sugar. So what you do is you're just going to take a little bit of regular table sugar and you're going to sprinkle about it, a tablespoon, couple teaspoons, something like that, over each of your little ramekins. And in this case, I'm just going to do one first to show you. And you'll take a torch, which you may or may not have. If you're not, I suggest you get one if you are going to use it. Very simple little tool. And what you'll do is you can't be afraid. You got to go right on here, and you're actually going to hold it onto it until you see it start turning a dark brown. And I'm just slowly moving it back and forth. You can see that very clearly, how it's turning into that burnt caramel color. People get nervous. Don't get nervous. It's not going to hurt anything if you just stay there. The worst that's going to happen is it's going to be a little darker than you want, but trust me, it's going to still be delicious. And there you go. Now, all you'll have to let that do is cool for about, 3 or 4 minutes. That shell will become very hard, and that is that crackle that you get when you first put your spoon into the creme brulee. So let's give that a minute to cool down. We'll finish. While we're doing that, we're going to continue on and sugar the rest of them, and then we'll come back and taste it. You just want to be careful then when you handle the ramekins afterwards too, because they are going to be a little bit hot. That's all. You don't need a lot of sugar. And by the way, this is a good time to tell you a little bit about the fact that at this point, not at this point, but most of these custards are flavored with just vanilla. But if you wanted something else, add a little chocolate or something like that, or a different kind of extract, you certainly can do that. So let's go ahead and do the rest of these. Again, just getting right on top of there. Doesn't take too much time at all. You can let your guests do this before dessert if you'd like. That's always fun. You just got to make sure they haven't had too much to drink when they do it. Either that or have your fire extinguisher ready. There you go. There's one. Move over to the next one. It's all good. I think we'll stop here at this point because this other one's ready to go. Yes, you can hear that. Yeah, I'm going to lift this one up. Can I show you? Can we get that, Fred? Right in. I just want to show you that that topping is now nice and hard, nice hard caramel topping and the custard underneath. We are just going to break that topping. Oh, I love my job. We're going to take that and we're going to take a nice little spoon of that. Delicious. The custard is still nice and soft. The caramel candy coating, perfect. Like I said, if you want a different flavor, just add one. But this right here, that's a little bit of heaven. So that's the creme brulee. Now we're going to move over into tiramisu for my second favorite dessert. And we're going to get set up to do that. And we'll come back and show you how we do the most traditional Italian dessert that there is out there. Fred, you got to have a bite of this. So tiramisu, that is certainly probably the most popular Italian dessert there is. And here at the restaurant, we sell a great deal of it, and we do make it here, of course. Another very simple dessert to make. Again, it has a few different components, but nothing crazy. So putting it all together is not only an easy thing to do, it's actually quite a fun thing to do. And what we're going to do here is show you how we do that. And the filling, there's two parts, I should say, to a tiramisu. One is the actual cream and the filling, and the other is the ladyfinger cookies and whatever liquid you want to put those in and flavor them with. So we'll get to that part in a minute. The first thing we're going to do is the cheese filling. And I say cheese because it is, in fact, a cheese. This is a mascarpone cheese, which you can get in any grocery store. Unfortunately, it is pretty expensive. A container about half this size is going to run you about $4 or $5 probably. And you'll need two. So you need about a pound of mascarpone, which I'm going to just right now put here in my mixer. See if I can do this without getting it all over the place. And to that, we are going to add some sugar, or powdered sugar, some vanilla, and some heavy cream. And that's it. So in goes the mascarpone. To that, I'm going to add some powdered sugar. Put that in. Try not to make too much of a mess, which is really difficult for me. Then we're going to add a little vanilla. I'm going to lift this up here, and I'm going to begin to turn it on a very slow speed as I add the heavy cream. So we're going to add that in there and then slowly put this in. The only reason I'm going slowly here is because with the creamy cheese in there, if I was to put this all in at the same time and then turn it on, it's going to splash. And I'm really already, I'm able to make a mess without any help at all here. So We're just going to do this slowly, and as you can tell, that was a pretty safe bet. All right, so what we're going to do here, this needs to mix, and actually I'm going to have to increase the speed because what you're trying to get to here is a very creamy whipped cream. And I don't know if you can see that quite yet. As it mixes, you will. As it starts to release from the inside of the whisk, if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but inside the whisk, that cream cheese is still kind of stuck, and it's slowly dissolving into the cream and the sugar. And as I increase the speed, that'll happen more. And then ultimately, it'll all thicken up nicely, and it will be a very spreadable cheese. Again, you can probably tell that. There we go. And it doesn't take too long, but it's going to take about maybe a minute or two to get to the right consistency. And I'll show you what that consistency looks like here as we go forward. All right, we're going to give it another little increase in speed. You can tell by looking at it that it's really starting to come together, really starting to be this whipped cream-like texture. You know, you want those stiff peaks that you're probably familiar with if you do any baking at all. When you whip cream, the longer you whip it, the stiffer the peaks are of that cream, and that's really what you're looking for here. And I think we are just about there. I'm going to shut this for just one moment. I'm going to just scrape down the sides. So I'm going to lower our container here. I'm going to scrape down the sides. Make sure we get all that goodness in there. I'm going to move it out. You can tell by looking at it. You can see here it's staying right on our spatula, which is great. That's kind of what we're looking for. I'm going to give it just another minute here, turn it around, and get that all finely blended together. And we'll be good to go. The next part is simply to talk a little bit about the mixture and how we're going to dip our cookies and putting it all together. All right. There we go. Now, let's bring it on down. It's so hard to do this in reverse. We're going to move this over. Move these things out of the way. I want to just show you where the cream is. And then I'm going to just pause for a moment while I kind of get my table set up here for the next step. So let me just show you the cream and how that looks. We have the nice, thick cream, what I call stiff peaks. You can do it because you can see that it holds the peak, the very top there. You can see it hold the peak. Sorry about that, Fred. You can see how it holds the peak together. And that is going to be a nice, spreadable tiramisu cream. So, all right, so let me just move some things around here on the table. And when we come back, we're going to put all of this together. The second part to all of this is what I call the juice. And the juice really consists of, for me anyway, and today, we're using a strong coffee. So we have about a cup of coffee in here. And to that, I'm going to add about a half a cup of a coffee liqueur. In this case, it's Kahlua. Now, this is the place where you get to change things up if you'd like. And what I mean by that is, let's pretend for a moment you don't want to make that coffee-flavored tiramisu. Instead of using a coffee or a coffee brandy, the Kahlua, or even the vanilla extract, you could use like a strawberry liqueur or some other flavor liqueur that really makes you happy. Instead of using a vanilla extract, use a strawberry or a lemon extract. And you can create your own tiramisu flavors, whatever it is that you'd like. I'm going to stay what I call traditional, even though the real traditional has more rum in it. And we're going to use this, but like I said, at this point, this is where you can change things up very simply. Now, before we start dipping our cookies into this juice, let me just talk briefly about whatever container you're going to make it in. Now remember, this isn't cooked. It's just refrigerated, so you can use just about anything. I am using just an aluminum foil 9-inch pan here. But what I'm going to do, and what I recommend you do as well, is get a nice piece of saran wrap and line whatever vessel you're using with that. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because later on, when we plate this, we're going to simply flip over the pan, remove the saran wrap, and I'll show you in a moment how we do that. And it will become really a very nice presentation without having to try to scoop anything out of a pan. It'll all be done on its own. So, but as you're making it, just keep in mind that the bottom of the pan is actually going to be the top of your dessert. So, here we go. We've got our ladyfinger cookies. And by the way, if you do buy these, or when you buy these, make sure you buy the hard ones. You don't want to buy the soft, spongy ones because you'll never get it. Once you dip them in here, they'll be mush and you won't be able to pick them up. The hard ones you can certainly buy. I think Stella D'Oro makes them. A number of other places, bakers make them. Find them in the cookie aisle. Just grab some nice, firm, dry ladyfinger cookies. We have our juice and we have our mix. Now the last thing that we have, which is totally optional, it is something we do here at the restaurant, is chocolate sauce. And in between layers, you'll see I'll sprinkle a little of this. Again, if you want a different flavor, maybe a little caramel or something fun like that, you can certainly do it. So we're going to start to assemble. We start, as I said, the bottom of this pan. So our first thing is actually the top of our dessert. So we're going to put in a nice mound of the cream, and we're just going to simply spread that along, or spread that around so it's nice and even. And I'm just using a spoon to do it. It's actually a flat spoon. It's probably my favorite utensil in the restaurant. I don't know if you can find them at a regular store. If you can, go buy one. If not, maybe a tiny offset spatula will do the trick. But here, all you're looking for is just a nice even layer of cream. And again, that'll be the top when you turn it around. At this point, we take our ladyfinger cookies. We have our mixture of coffee and liqueur, and we're just going to dip them in. Not too long, because they absorb a lot of liquid very quickly. And you want to, you don't want them to fall apart. So if I leave them in there for too many seconds, it'll be very difficult to take them back out. So we're just dipping them in, and you can see how we're just putting them next to each other. We want to get them relatively close, but do just leave a little space in between. If you're trying to fill in a little spot, you could break the cookie in half and do that. Maybe we'll fit one more over here onto the side. All right. And then we have that layer of cookies. Now I'm going to take our chocolate sauce and just drizzle it. And this is just Hershey's chocolate sauce, by the way. Nothing too exciting about that. Again, optional. At this point then, we'll take the cream. It's kind of like making a lasagna, a dessert lasagna. So we have the cream now. We're going to put that. You can see me pressing it down in between the little cookies that are there. So you get a beautiful amount of cream in every little bite. And sometimes you got to add a little more. Don't be shy. It's all good. If you're going to have a bite of these calories anyway, you might as well do it. All right. Next layer, and then we're going to do one more layer of cookies. Again, just dip them into here. And do them the opposite way, just for a little crisscross effect. See, it doesn't take very long to do this. It's a very quick dessert to make once the cream is done, and the cream only took a couple moments to do. So we just make, in this particular pan, we're only going to make 2 layers. So this will be our last layer. Depending on whatever pan you use, you may have more than that. So it really doesn't matter. Again, beautiful thing about cooking. There's really no wrong way to do it. Okay, so we have our cookies in there. Now, once again, a little bit of our chocolate sauce. Not too heavy on that. And then we're going to add the last layer of cream. Now remember, this is going to be the bottom layer too. So we put that in, press that down in between the cookies. Oh, that looks so good. Okay, and there we go. All right, our tiramisu is done. Now we do have some extra. We can make another little one too, but right now I just want to finish it up and show you this. So we have our completed tiramisu. Remember, we have the saran wrap around it. I'm going to unravel here. Now, as you can tell probably from looking at it, this is a very wide saran wrap. You probably don't have this at home. You can use just a crisscross of your regular 12-inch saran wrap, and that'll work just as well. But normally at this point, what I would do is I would take it, I would kind of fold it over, pat it down, kind of bundle it all up like this and put it in the refrigerator until you're ready to serve. It's best if you put it in the refrigerator for a good hour or two, certainly. You can actually freeze it at this point as well. So let's say you want to make some small ones and leave them in your freezer, you could do that. They defrost very well, but recommend and highly recommend you defrost them in your refrigerator, like many things that have these creamy kind of ingredients to them. But let's pretend for a moment that in fact we have done all of the above and it's nice and cool and chilled. Let me show you how we plate this. I've got a cutting board here. You would have like a little tray or dish or whatever you're going to plate it in. All you need to do, let me move this aside here, you would unwrap it. And the simplest thing to do is to take your tray and flip it on over that way, and then you'll lift up your pan like that. You'll remove your pan, and then you'll remove your saran wrap. Now, of course, since I did not let this rest long enough, some of that cream is going to come off the top, but that's okay. You get this. You get the idea. It's not going to hurt anything. If you do have that issue when you're doing it, which you very well may, and that's perfectly okay, especially if you were in a rush, just fix it. That's all. No harm, no foul. So you fix that off. At this point, you can sprinkle that with a little bit of cocoa powder, or you could sprinkle it with some powdered sugar. If you're using, say you want to do a little mixture of things, you could slice some fresh strawberries. You could put those on here. Any fresh fruits, especially if you decided to go with a different kind of an extract. At this point, you can make this beautiful with whatever you would like. But we're going to go the traditional route here. And I've got to actually find where my spoon is. Actually, I'm going to use the same spoon right here to give it a taste because I can. You can cut this however you want to, obviously. You might have a square pan. You might have individual. You can make these in martini glasses individually, which is a really great thing to do for a dinner party. Or wine glasses, make individual ones. But whatever it is that you do, the trick is to make sure that you do it with love, of course, and that you let it refrigerate for a little while before you actually eat it. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut right into this. Part of the reason why you wanted to let it rest too is because the cookies, since they are hard, they will become soft as it sits and it absorbs all of the different flavors from the cream, etc. But I'm just going to take a little bit of a bite right here of the tiramisu cream. Oh my God, that's so good. Excellent. You can taste the brandy, but it's not overpowering, because you're only doing 1/3 of that to 2/3 of the coffee. This would be delicious with some really fresh fruits. But beyond that, it's delicious in its own right. So hopefully what you've found today is creme brulee. Well, it's got a great little French name, and it sounds exciting and intriguing and difficult. It really is not. Tiramisu, same deal. It is one of the most popular Italian desserts that everybody can make at home very simply, and I certainly hope you try. So thanks again for Cooking with Love, and Fred, thank you, of course, for doing all the work, and we'll see you in our next episode. But do check out our website if you want to see the rest.